Thank you. We know we're beginning. So if you think cannot hear, it's when someone's speaking, just raise your hand. Even if you're in the audience, and we welcome everyone today. This is our August 4th. We didn't have a July meeting, but it's been glorious to see how Montreat has been dealing, particularly the town and conference center, with our COVID situations. And I want to thank right at the top of the list here, Mr. Alex Carmichael, for providing our meeting here. We'll discuss near the end of the day, end of the meeting, where we will be going in the fall and winter. Welcome to everyone. I'm glad to see the public is here. With the comments that we'll be coming down to would be the public comments. It is possible that our Montreat Landcare bylaws will not be discussed, and I will be talking about our agenda in just a few minutes, but let's take a deep breath and just take a moment of silence. And thank you very much. Maybe it lasted a moment, but we're glad to open the meeting with first. I'd like to thank, Maggie is not here, but we did have a presentation at the Montreat Cottagers annual meeting a week ago last Saturday, and she prepared a precious little happy program. If you were not there, this is an umbrella of all the events, but her charge was to tell everyone at the cottagers that Montreat Landcare umbrella is enriching and expanding connections. And this is a report. We could not, because of time, have any presentation, but the wonderful citizen science Dr. Seaman did send me a updated brochure, and I have extras for anyone that would like them, a front and back of the highlights of Flat Creek water quality studies. And this is an up-to-date of July of 2021. So please know that I have those available for people. If you were not there and you're on our board, it'd be a good thing for you to even go to our website, and we're going to update that and put that on it as well if you wish to see it. Now, when I've set meeting goals, I actually wanted very much to have those after we do our minutes, and I kind of need to switch room number 3 and 4. So let's just go back to number 4 and looking at the minutes of previous meeting of June. And Meredith Green has always done a fabulous job. And if you want a copy of those minutes, if you have one on your screen, if there are any additions, it's very small type on the paper I have. And there are 2 pages. And we have those in attendance was everyone, and I think Martha and Brad Hester were our visitors, and they are here again. So they have also can be reading that as well. The public comments we will have shortly after the Roman numeral 4s and 3s, because there's some things in here I think we might want to talk about again. Do I have any additions or corrections of our June 2nd minutes, please? If not, do I have a motion to accept those minutes? Thank you. All in favor? Say aye. Thank you. And again, thank you, Meredith. Let me just go to the meeting goals. We have been doing a lot of back and forth with many conversations I've had with a lot of people within the entities, the partnerships we have with Conference Center and the town. There's the land care projects for 22 all the way up through 23 is what I'd like for us to be thinking about in the coming months. I've gone back and looked at historically in the minutes and other occasions where Martha or Bill Seaman, past presidents, have looked at what can we do for the future. One that I would like, I have a person who wants to speak to this, and that is the handicap accessible Montreat Trail. Now, that in particular was brought up even 3 years ago when Patty Powell brought a project to the community, along with talking with people at the conference center, the town, and the college, and herself, because of the past Montreat, Camp Montreat proposal. And I'd like Patty, if you would like to borrow the microphone to speak to that, because she was inspired
I guess I'm
during
on.
a
Okay,
church
so
service.
any of you who were in worship at Anderson and heard Will Jones' sermon, there was certainly a point made about ideas for making Montreat a place where those who are handicapped can enjoy nature here. And so it's just been in my mind for several years that some of the areas along Flat Creek could be made accessible. And that's not just for wheelchairs, but for strollers. And any of you who have grandchildren and strollers know that it's not so easy to get around and get to the places that are super fun. So I just love it if we could maybe form a little team that would be interested in looking around at sites. I had ideas in the past about possibilities. And I just think it's worth pursuing, and it would be great. I have a whole file. I have pictures of swings you can install that wheelchairs roll right up onto. I've got other ideas for boardwalks and other things. And we have resources through the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation, because they have trails through Track Trail now all across the country, some of which were constructed from the get-go as accessible. So I think we can work together. I'd love to see some activity with the college on this, if possible, and other collaborations that make sense. So anyway, I have a lot of enthusiasm for it, would be willing to do any of the research and the legwork involved, and just invite you all to consider it.
Any comments or any questions or comments or thoughts about that from any of the panel of our distinguished members?
I'll just add one thing, and that is that after the sermon that Sunday, I went home and wrote an email to Richard DeBose, and he got back to me right away saying, you know, accessibility is something that's high on the list of things that are coming as far as the conference center goes, and this would not be one of their priorities because obviously they have a very full plate. But if some of us are willing to, you know, get it together, he's very interested in staying up to date on it. So we have that going into it as well.
And I do think there are some other people in our community that would like to join up, and that's where I would like to encourage and people that wish to have that time that are on our board. I will say that. Can you still hear? Yeah. I will say that when we designated our fundraising goals, when we are starting, we have put those into a fund to go toward, and I made this executive decision, but it is going toward the funds raised from the selling of our nature cards of Jim's artists, our artists in residence here. Those funds will be going to help with the handicap trails. And we're working out small areas, even if they're in the pocket parks or areas, as well as the one that I think at some time we can talk about, the proposal for the Montreat camp area that has Whisperwood Trail and Watermelon Pond. And that would also give an opportunity for people who were not familiar and come new to Montreat, the history of Camp Montreat. So we can hit two birds with one stone. So we can maybe even get Ron Vincent's, all of his materials he has together, and still have materials available for people that walk that trail and that's an area where you can just go flat into that Pigeon Creek, which is Kitchen Creek, is the creek that flows into kitchen branch. Oh, thank you from the public. All right. Now, this area of under the Landcare project, the other one that I've been speaking with the conference center is an environmental resource room. This was at the very beginning when Landcare started from Parks and Recreation. They wanted our community and the town and, well, college as well as the conference center to have an environmental resource room. And that's being in discussions with Martha Sloan and with the conference center using the gatehouse. It would be one where it would be still the welcome center, but with the resources that could be in that room could be easily, accessible, and it would give the public a greeting, not only that we're welcoming you to Montreat and having staff there in that room, but it could also be a place where they realize that we're an environmental conscious community. So stay tuned for that. The Nancy Hope funds and all those that are being contributing toward that will be divided up, and we'll have a real good financial discussion about that in the coming months. So be alert to that, please. Now, the fundraising strategies. Little did Jim Williamson and I, who've been friends for many months, years, realize that we would have this opportunity to, as you know from our last meeting, he did pass around the note cards. And I want Jim to speak just to part of the extendings of this project, but I wanted to share something that I was just astonished with at our cottagers meeting. We set up, this is the two copies of our note cards, and they are sold for $4 a piece. And Martha, you'll be pleased to know that I've used the Landcare stickers to seal them. And so that's a good use. And we sold them in groups of 10. And a special, instead of 40, you can get them for 35. Within 30 minutes after the announcement that we had the cards at the table, we ended up getting 93 cards sold by the end of the week. So that was within a time where I'm going to send around, if you'll take one. Eric, my husband, he loves to do charts, and I think he misses it since he's not working anymore. But he has made up a Montreat Landcare note card sales. And those who like to read financial statements, there are 400 cards that we produced, and that includes, and then the total cost was $366.89. There were printing, that includes the cost of the stock printing, envelopes, the acetate folders for each card, and some displays. The average cost now, as we figure it out, if we continue on, will be about 92 cents, and we're selling them for $4. Now, there were 93, as I said, note cards proceeds from the sales as of August 3rd, and we are up to $420. As we look at the inventory and we proceed, if sold at 4, we'll be reading into the amount of to $1,228. Plus any proceeds from sales of note cards, that was $420. So right now we are making money each time we sell because we've covered our costs. So Jim and I were astonished. So we thought we were so successful with that. We had many comments and questions concerning the larger ones. And this is just for display so people could tell what the cards look like. So Jim, to give us your 2 cents on what we've talked about yesterday.
Yes, well, when we were selling the cards at Cottagers, we had a number of people ask about whether they could purchase one of these enlargements, these prints that we had made. And so we have looked into the possibility of doing that since then. So I just thought I would give you a short little introduction to what that might involve if we in fact decide to go ahead with it. These prints were made with an inkjet printer if we decided to sell prints, we would want to make sure that they were on archival paper, probably mounted on a backer board, and then matted with perhaps a clear acetate plastic cover over them, so that they would. Some people display them just like that. Other people would remove the acetate and have their own frame made. The custom in doing something like this is to print a limited quantity, and I'm not sure what that quantity would be, and to have the artist sign them and say on each one, number 1 out of 50, for example. So it's clear to the buyer that this is a limited number of prints, which supposedly increases their value a bit. The size would be the actual size of the painting, which is, in the case of this one, is pretty much what you see, about 11 by 17. The Montreat gate is a little bit smaller. It's about 9 by 11, roughly. I looked into pricing a bit down at Montreat. I found some similar kinds of prints for sale in one of the stores there. The average selling price retail seems to be in the $40 range. Now, we would have to figure out what the production cost of this is. So there would be the cost of the printing, which is pretty minimal. The cost of mats, which would have to be custom cut by someplace, like Blackbird Framing, for example. The mounting, so that would be the most expensive part of the project. So that's as far as we've taken it. I think it's another opportunity for some fundraising. Would raise more money than the cards, but there may be a somewhat limited market. We don't really know at this point.
Any thoughts from anyone? Shall Jim and I proceed and come back next month with a proposal and get a pricing of that? And as I was talking with Jim yesterday, I did say that I was going to be thinking of getting a little side team of people who like to sell things and market it. But I thought of also the fact that we have such a wonderful resource with the town Montreat Minute and of course the Montreat community announcements, that there are ways that we can advertise even the selling and mailing of these. Now, the Montreat directory, which I've been involved with, and Vincent has actually been the person involved with the mailings of those are pretty heavy directories to mail. But these cards and even prints would be something ideally that we could ask posted into the November time for gifts for the holidays. So I think we can get the word out. There's so many limited times that we can have them displayed. We obviously at the auditor's meeting kind of rushed on the table, which was fun. And then we had a phone call on one at 10 of 10. So we picked up a check with an hour later for about $105. So we are getting some great attention, and Jim is so appreciative. We're so thankful and thanking you again for allowing us to make this. Any comment? I know we even if people wanted to buy the samples that we have now. Any more questions related to our fundraising strategy? Right. Any budget report current status, Mr. Carmichael?
I don't have a current budget report, but I'll try to get that and get that out to the board.
Excellent. Okay. We are with our new budget. Thanking again, Alice, for our 2,500. Alice really came to the bat for us, and I greatly appreciate it. And we've already made a deposit, as you know, of $420 into. And Angie's a great banker. I enjoy going over and banking with her. I need to have a little more knowledge of the ways to report this, and it's my understanding, Alex, that proceeds to this goes back into the regular fund, since that's where the printing costs came, or do they go into the printing?
That's something we'll have to discuss. I have to go go look and see where that last deposit was made, but that's something we'll need to discuss as to where those proceeds should go.
That 420 did go into, I think she said she was depositing it in the regular fund, but that was also where we could clear the cost that we had, so we're back into 2,500. So we'll talk. Thank you. Maggie is not here, and I know that Dottie's been working on the committee bylaws. I just want to say that it's something that we're looking at within the website to be sure that we are getting our vision and our mission statements. It has a lot, if we have a mission statement on our nonprofit website, we are able to have more access for people to go in and be led to either the conference center, and it would not be personal names that would go on our email addresses, and so we can have better communication with the public. I'm going to have an update of the website with Ann Deal, and I think we're moving toward thinking about lightening up also the logo of the Landcare. And Ann Benson's been working with that. And so any changes, we need to start with mission statement, and if we have a logo with colors, that makes a lot of difference in getting the website developed. Instead of waiting, you need to start there and then revamping. That's what I'm getting to my gurus of the website. Now, we have two areas here of 7 and 8, environmental concerns and public comments. And might interchange and say that in the past, and Martha and I have chatted about this before, we're in a very formal room. We have comments that we can make to each other as members of the board. I'm not real sure as a committee, when we've had them in the Allen building, we've had a free flow because we've been in a circle, a very casual approach. And I want to be able to, because of our time limits and our agendas, I want always the public to just be able to speak and to comment. And sometimes even after we've had the public comments, we go down and have some other project reports, and maybe there's some curiosity within the audience, the non-members. And I don't know where and how to handle that. I'm trying to work through that, because this does look like a very formal meeting, because we're following a lot of what we do with board council members. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that. I know it's nice to have meetings. Sometimes we have not had any public people here, but Brad has always been our sidekick because he comes to G. But we have 3, and of course Martha being the past chair of Landcare. But we do have Nancy and the Caspers here, and Nancy, I know you wanted to speak because we've had 2 or 3 conversations. So if you would like to speak, and if Caspers you have some comments. But I've also had back here and John for some other reasons. If you feel comfortable with that.
As I've been walking around Montreat this summer, I've noted a number of invasive species of concern, and in particular, I've seen a fair amount of Japanese knotweed, and I know this is something that some people are aware of, and but it is very destructive, especially if it gets in waterways or hillsides, and that seems to be where it is. It's actually right there in that creek, right outside this building, a big bush of it, and all along that road going back towards the little maintenance shed back there, and up on Westminster there's some that's on the hillside going down into a creek. Once again, it is in the creek, and any little pieces of that plant that break off go down and root along stream beds and destroy the stream beds. It has been outlawed in several states. In Great Britain, if you have any of this on your property, you have a major fine, because it just is so destructive, and it comes up through asphalt, it goes into buildings. It's a huge problem, and it's up on Lookout also going down towards the stream. So I don't know what can be done. I know that there are some limitations in terms of the finances for maintenance. Our maintenance here in the town is limited, and but as I was reading last night, I realized that mowing it will also spread it. So it needs to be cut out and poisoned so that it'll go into the roots, because the roots extend an enormous distance, like 50, 60, I don't know how many feet. Yes. It looks like this. Just a minute. I brought some. Okay. It grows up to 12 feet bushes around, you know. This is some. No. But it has these notched branches, and the leaves come off at the notches. It's currently blooming, and this is what it looks like, only more so in bloom. So it's on Virginia Road. It's on 2 places on Westminster where it's getting, one of them going down into the stream and extending down the stream in that spot until I can't see through the woods to see where it goes, but go down towards Kanawha. And anyway, that's a great concern. There are other things that I'm sure have been discussed, and Ann Vinson mentioned this.
At our tree board, you brought
Yes. I'm sorry, my stuff is all tangled up, as weeds do. This one is autumn olive. And with our current rains, the berries have been knocked off. The birds love the berries. So this is broadly across through the central part of Montreat. I haven't really looked everywhere else. And I'm not sure if there's a male and female of this, so that it may be much more widespread than I've noticed, because I'm not seeing berries on all of it. But that is Russian olive. Autumn olive. I'm sorry, autumn olive. And then I didn't do a lot of research on this, except I believe, this is bittersweet. Asian bittersweet. This grows up, and it'll grow out of the ground in this little stem and then start wrapping around the trees, and it strangles the trees. So anyway, those are 3, and of course there's loads of others. But the biggest concern, as far as I'm thinking, if there were an initiative to deal with something, the knotwood is our gravest concern right now, because it is getting into the streams and will be carried down and choke out the streams and destroy the hillsides around the streams too.
The knotweed has been a problem for years. Dottie's shaking her head. We did and Hal and I think were part of a project with a group from Montreat Presbyterian Church who worked with students one day to get to work on knotweed that's near the tennis courts, at the end of the tennis courts where there's a grassy area that used to be volleyball and stuff. So we got the baseball team for our paired group. You remember how they were going to do more than anybody could do in the whole world. These guys were so determined. We had borrowed shovels, and we had a tarp that was going to carry away all the stuff so that nothing was left. They broke most every piece of equipment that we had just trying to dig it up. If you remember how there were shovels that were all crazy. because the roots are so deep and they're very hard. I know that the town, and I think it's Mike Harrison who's been trying to keep it shaved at the ground so that there are no more seeds, because that was part of the problem was getting, I know if they still grow, but it seems you couldn't, I'm not even sure you could dig it out with a backhoe. It's so deep there. So it's there, it's on Lookout Road right by the college's welcome sign. I mean, it's all, it's segmented like you've seen, you see the stalks, they're segmented in a lot of the flower parts at the top. It's along Elizabeth's Path. It's in a lot of places, and this is years that this has been a project to try to dig this stuff up. The other thing has to do with the Chinese silvergrass, which is really spreading fast. And that is a grassy thing with pretty white fronds. When you drive to Asheville, it's all along the side of the interstate. It's something that the Forest Service is very concerned about because it has a lot to do with fires that start on the sides of roads from whatever sparks, cigarettes or whatever, because it just explodes. The silvergrass does. And I know the town's been cutting back the silvergrass on the right of way. The thing is, a lot of the property where these things are is private property. So the town can't address it. We talked about a cocktail that the maintenance people developed, and they were going to use, they were using the old-fashioned shoe polish jars with the sponge on top so that they could cut something and then put the poison down on it to try to get the roots. But you can't do that near the creek. You cannot poison right by the creek. That gets poison into the creek through the root systems, apparently. So that is a discouraging part of the, at least that's what I think Barry had explained to us. So that's a discouraging part of getting rid of any of these invasives. We had displays at native plant sales, and people offered to buy the plants. You know, so they said, "Oh, are those for sale? That's beautiful." So we have a lot of. It's on the website, the town, I mean, on the Landcare website, about a whole section on invasives, trying to help educate. But, you know, they do make a kind of a pretty green thing if you want that pretty green thing. There are plenty of other grasses besides the one that's so invasive. There are plenty of other plants to plant. You don't have to use English ivy that grows around the trees, but we're all just learning.
Nancy, thank you. And Martha, you can come back if any other comments. But Alice would like to speak to this too.
Nancy, remind me of your last name, please. Hollinger, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Martha, thank you for your comments. Certainly, I know this from years of attending, participating on this committee, certainly not weeding things. And it seems to me this is so huge. We need to get this concern addressed in terms of really developing something intense and get it offline in terms of these meetings. I mean, something along the lines that Patty's talking about with the handicap park. It sounds like there's funding there available once there is a commitment, if there's a commitment from this group, to really focus on it. But this is something that we have known about. Both the grass is growing, the silverweed and the knotwood. So I'm glad to hear these comments right now, but I think we need to really organize what we already know in every respect and start communicating that and figuring out how we're going to address it as a community if we're going to.
And you must have been reading my mind, because I have gone back and Martha's letters and all the college and help that they did. The knotweed, this is one from 2019. There are basic plants in my materials, and there's 2010 about invasive plants. And what we're finding is that there are communities that do have funds and available, monies to help out with that. And if it's the right of way, the town is working on that, I know. But we do have areas of private conference. I mean, the mountain truth is something that's wishing to restore the forest native ecology. And I think there are programs there, and I have a name of someone that I'm going to talk with at Mountain Truth. They do have programs that, of course, the church has been getting materials and advertising from Mountain Truth looking to be donating for that. They've worked in the other areas of North Carolina, but the mountains have, Western North Carolina moving all over Montreat, and no one can work with the tree board, with the Ivy League, and Vincent's group has the ability to use the wonderful tools of the town. Because if you want to get a not Japanese knotweed out of your yard, you have to go down 3 feet to get to the roots, cut it off. Eric has found one, and it comes back every spring. You see that little sprout coming back, and we have no idea how to have our property. But at any rate, it is not a happy. We're not happy campers with knotweed. Any other comment?
Yeah, on the knotweed issue, one of the places that it's a deep infestation is above the room in which we used to have our meetings. Yeah, and there's steep bank there. And given how deep it goes, getting it out of there, whosever project that turns out to be, is going to destroy the bank. So we need, for locations like that, not only a plan for getting it out, but a plan for restoring something, whether it's rocks, whether it's additional planting. So it is a bigger project, well worth taking on, in my opinion. End of comment.
Thank you. We do have, just one minute, we do have invasive plants. There was a fact sheet that was written in 2014. I've asked Joe Standard, and I've also asked Bill Seaman, who created it, to again have that available and updated, and not that you're updating weeds, they're still there. But I am hoping that with some of these invasive, I have about 2,000 of these. I don't know how many. There's a lot. I bought the box of them for $6.99 at the Black Mountain Children's Home thrift. Yeah. So I was thinking if we can put all these different information, education materials in these and place them near the Montreat directories in Angie's office, that new people that come in will be educated and have knowledge of what's going on in their yards, because it's private property that has to take care of it too, as well as the public.
And just to add to that comment, if indeed there is an environmental resource room in the Montreat Gate, depending on how those conversations go, those packets there would be very helpful.
Yes. In fact, we can have meetings at the gatehouse with people that wish to come and talk about weeds. Nancy, thank you. Oh, we got to move on here. Okay. Yes. Oh, Brad, of course I remember. Sorry.
This is just a little bit unwieldy, but may save some time in the long run. I'm going to pass around something for people to put your name and your preferred contact information just for my use. The tree board is trying to organize an outing to go see the Chestnut Foundation place that's sort of near the airport, near the Arboretum. So maybe later in the meeting, there'll be time to say a little bit more about that. But for now, if you think you might be interested, just give me your name and contact information.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, actually, the environmental concerns, if there are others that I was focusing on, we've got to get hold of this invasive species in Montreat, and I think putting energy toward that is where we should go. All right, activity projects, the Black Creek, this would be the summary that Bill will report on, but I do want to tell you that we have Bill Campbell that has been doing the weekly chemistry evaluation of the swimming hole, and that stream team has been actively at work, and I think there have only been 2 times, Martha may can correct this, that it's been an issue, but it's clean and clear. And I'm going to attach his report to the minutes, and I will let people that are reading the minutes as you get them out before the next meeting understand that there might be an update to that special. Firewise, Meredith, do you have any comment on Firewise?
I'm on. Am I on? Can you? Am I on? Okay. No, I talked to Nancy Midget, and she said at this time she had given all of her report at the Cottagers meeting, and she'll have an update in September.
There's a huge Firewise project report, presentation at the table that is up-to-date information. The Rain Gardens project, I'm encouraging various people and citizens through the this project. I've had a wonderful discussion with William Neely, and he's not wanting to take on the project, but he is willing, and I'm going to get this out in information for Montreat Minute. People who are wanting to see his rain garden project in his backyard. But he is a guru of that. I mean, he has researched and has done a wonderful job, but he does not want to be actively controlling a committee and meeting. But we have people that are also getting brochures when they come into your building. Of course, you have to have one of those projects going on with land and construction. Jim, anything you want to add? Because in August, we're going to have another webinar. And Jean Norris.
We have a date reserved for the native plant sale. Traditionally, save the date notices go out to vendors and possibly to presenters in October. The date is Saturday, the 23rd of April. It looks like we will probably be head-to-head in competition with Growing in the Mountains again. And this is assuming that we don't have some new or awful COVID outbreak that puts it all on hold. It's time to try to reassemble the committee structure. So I'll be contacting people about that to see if the people who have been on record are willing to continue or if we need replacements. We have almost given out all of this brochure. And it was a fairly expensive thing to print. Oh, okay, excellent. Okay, excellent. Then I won't even worry about that. Okay. Let's see. We've managed to give out about 20 copies of the Growing in Montreat over the last couple of things since its first introduction at the post office. We have about 156 of them left, which is probably enough. I don't know what else to say. I mean, we will need to talk about what we are willing to pay for the plant sale. We don't have to do it today, but this printing cost us. Paying for a band cost us, and that cost has gone up now. It's about $500 worth or maybe even more. So we need to figure out what is worth paying for. The plant sale does not actually make us money. It has actually cost us money. It's an educational effort. It's an encouragement to people to plant natives. It's a community event, but it is not a money maker. So we need to figure out how much are we willing to spend on it, toward what purpose. Do we maybe want to consider canned music and a DJ, which might cost less than a band? The band was nice. Things to think about. And that's, I don't know that we need to go into depth on any of those things today, but it's a future agenda item.
Yeah, and I'd like to put that on the agenda with a 15-minute time for us to discuss. We'll come with the dates and the breakdown of from this point of starting at April and backing up as to what we need to make decisions on. Yes, we do have in the budget monies put aside for that. And children outdoors, Patty.
Okay, so I need your feedback. This is a time of year when I was planning to send letters to a variety of different entities, schools, preschools, scout troops, churches, earth care teams, presbytery, all kinds of ideas about how widely to disseminate the information about our track trail and Echo Explore. And just in casual conversation about that, there's lots of different ways to do it and ways to think about it. So I really need to know if we want to stay immediate, local, if we want to go farther, and or if you want me to get really creative and just think of every possible target for publicizing, promoting our track trail. We know from the information we get from the Parkway Foundation, our track trail isn't getting a lot of registrations, and that's part of what makes it so interesting and fun is that you register online and you get prizes. I think we've had 2 registrations over the course of the summer. But anyway, I just would like to know now, because this is the time with school starting again, for me to work on this particular part of the publicity. So what are your thoughts?
I know that Jason Nance was concerned if we had buses coming in and not having some control. I would suggest starting small with the Swananoa Valley area and see what response, and then even be able to reach them on knowing that there's a schedule. But Jason's concerned about, just like some kind of Robert Lloyd Park, you see people jumping in their buses.
Just simply to echo that, I mean, I think clearly the program needs to be established firmly before it is widely disseminated. And again, I think, along with Jason, impact on roads, infrastructure, no bathrooms in the community. We need to make sure that we're thinking about the cost to the whole community, various entities, including the town, before going wide would be. But I think wonderful work so far, and just a wonderful foundation on which to build and solidify.
Okay, I'm cool with that, and I will make sure that I talk to Jason and show him the draft of what's going out, because we had already agreed that that's how things would proceed. So I'll be sure and do that.
Enormous strides with regenerating this program and connecting us. We don't know what our membership fee is yet. Good. We like a free ride. Thank you, Patty. And I know Patty has to go. She's the chef at the what do you call it? Open table. Thank you for all you do for other people, for the community, Patty. Thank you. The brainstorming of these new projects and fundraisers, we're whetting your appetite today, so I'd like for you to think about those over the next month, and even go off to another direction. But we are wanting monies to be raised. It could be that we could look at fundraising. We look at fundraising even at the native plant sale with another raffle. So there are ways that we are educating and raising money at the same time. So that is one of our goals. But we would like to thank again all those who have been working toward this native plant sale. And I think that we need to have a group effort toward giving that good planning and recruiting other members of the community to help Gene Norris. This is going to finally be birthed in April after two springs. All right. Any town comments? And well, I know Ann Benton will have something with the tree board. Alex or Alice or Meredith.
On the budget, I'm thrilled that the commissioners agreed to refund, replenish, actually even more than replenish from a year ago. Difficult decision, very emotional issues in the community right now. I think this could well have been one of those nice efforts that was wisely presented to us that simply slipped through because we are in a little bit better position than we were a year ago. So I'm thrilled with that. I am very much aware, with all the activity in this effort, that there will be a whole lot more money needed over time. The town's funds are quite limited. They will continue to be quite limited. So I just want to remind everyone of that as we go forward. Last thing I'll say is thanks to Alex Carmichael and the whole town staff always. The flowers look beautiful on this property. Somebody's watering the flowers well. Alex says it's mostly Daniel that's doing that for us. But I want to thank you for taking care of that, because they just look stunning when you drive past and drive in the parking lot. Thank you.
I'm up. Okay. For those of you well, I've got 2 things. First of all, on our next Ivy League outing, this is the tree board's effort to help contain all the ivy that's into the public trees. Is going to be on Tuesday, August 17, from basically 9:30 to 11:30, or until the heat wears all of us out. And this is one of those wear your best grubbies Um, when we finish up, we look like you don't want to meet us in the woods in the dark or even in the daylight. But we've done a lot of good progress on that. And as a result of that, and of course I forgot to bring it, is we did come up with a flyer that we had available at the cottagers meeting and we'll have available on Labor Day weekend that talks about for people with private property, what you can do to help get your ivy under control. Some people love it, a lot of people don't. So it's just, it addresses those issues and what to do. But just because you didn't make the first 2 Ivy League outings doesn't mean you can't join us. This is kind of open for anybody who wants to come, clip ivy, bag ivy, you know, and help us out. The Public Works Department has come up with a chart of areas to cover. We're still on Virginia Road, so that gives you an idea of how much there is in town, in case you hadn't figured it out yet. So just meet down at the gate on August 17. Give Angie a call or email her. And if you get up with me, I'll make sure we'll be on the lookout for you as well. The biggest thing we're really excited about is we're going to have an Arbor Day celebration on Saturday, September 4. We know that's Labor Day weekend. We're going to have it here at the town hall. Alex and I have walked around and figured out where. We're going to have the American Chestnut Foundation is working with us on this event. They are coming to speak. They're going to talk about the extinction of it. We'll be making boards that talk about the history of the tree in Montreat. And I think we're going to be able to leave those boards up for many months. We haven't counted how many yet, but we know they're going to be right inside the building. We're also working on having display tables. We're not really doing vendors like we do for the plant sale, but we have the tree board's going to have a table. American Chestnut folks are going to have a couple tables. Landcare, in case you all didn't know, you're having a table, and Firewise is on board. And I've got to get up with Dottie and see if the college is at all interested in doing anything. The other aspect of this is at that, let's see, Samantha Bowers is going to give a PowerPoint, and the talks will be in this room. And we're not sure yet who is going to be doing a talk about, we want to create a chestnut steward program with the citizens in Montreat. And I think Josh might be interested in having one of his classes also do that. And it's basically, we have 9 additional seedlings that need to get into the ground this fall. We're finding places around town to put them. Also working with Jason Nance. I've mentioned it to him. I told him I'd get up with him at the end of the summer and just keep an eye where these can go. But have members of the community keep track of the seedlings progress. And that would be in addition to the 4 that we put in last fall. Brad Hester's going to head up that project and work with the Chestnut Foundation folks, keep track of how they're growing, have they been infested with anything, and just making sure their development, make sure there's no blight coming back. The variety they have now, they feel is much more blight resistant than what they did about 12, 15 years ago. And as we have said, we are more than happy to help them out with that. We're also working on, one of the things we're going to have at the tree board table is soil sample kits for members of the community, whether you want to plant trees or whatever. And that's going to involve the package from the extension folks, and also the flyer that Jean had, that tan flyer. Barry and Daniel we were looking at it when we were discussing what to do, and that has some great information in it about growing. and talking about natives and not just the invasives, but talking about growing trees and what to look for and light requirements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are going to be what's in our little soil sample packet. And I think we're going to try and have those available for the first time at the Arbor Day Foundation celebration. And once again, this is going to be strictly Arbor Day. So we're concentrating on our trees. There's lots of issues that would love to be able to discuss, but we're going to save a lot of that for the plant sale in the spring. We're going to probably need some help with the physical setup. We'll be looking for a couple more tents. The Chestnut Foundation we're going to put on the porch, and I know not everybody needs to know this, but there's also going to be tables and displays out on the grounds, which is why we're so limited in how many displays we can have. And so we're going to be looking for folding chairs and tables that are going to be okay out in the elements for a little bit. Just to, who knows what's going to happen. It's like the plant sale. So we'll be, anybody who can help us with that, we'd really appreciate it. And there was one other thing I had, and I forgot to write it down.
What is the time
Oh.
frame for that?
Good question. Thank you, Dottie. It'll be 10 to 12. No, it won't. It will be 10 to 2. And as I mentioned, Samantha's going to do a talk about the extinction and their efforts to reintroduce. And also one of the members is going to be telling us what to do, what we need to look for chestnut stewards and more of the technical issues on that. So we're hoping there'll be a lot of interest from the public to jump in and be able to help us keep track of the trees and how they're doing. I think that's everything I have.
Just one comment from the town. Thank you for all you're doing. And just for everyone to understand, this is an Arbor Day celebration because it helps us check off lots of other boxes with Tree City, with reporting on what's going on in the community, which we have to do this fall. And so that's part of the reason, not only to promote the chestnuts, but to focus it on our annual required Arbor Day statement. Thank you.
And we'll have, it won't, we'll work with Landcare for the plant sale and just have a general Arbor Day celebration, which is what we usually do. But we have a chance this year, hopefully sans most COVID, to be able to concentrate on the chestnut tree and an Arbor Day celebration itself. So.
And I think celebrating it here at this beautiful area of the town hall and promoting publicity. As chair of Landcare, I'm automatically on pre-board with Ann, and I'm having a wonderful time working with her with the publicity. She's going to help us out with that, but we need to get people here. And I would like to ask, and I'll speak to Alice later, but if you would be announcing this in the August town council, and this brochure that we're talking about that's so good, it tells you about all the native plant recommendations from shrubs to trees. This is an outstanding, and we'll continue to support tree border of the public with more training for these if we need it. Great. But we'll also be having a small luncheon for those participants. So if you volunteer, you get to have a free lunch. So
It's mainly for the vendors,
oh, okay.
for the display people.
I'll throw in some extra bread.
Yeah.
Because we'll be here for a while. But thank you so much, Ann, and I look forward to continuing working with Landcare to work with the town and the community. And we are down through now the any college update. Donnie, we're so glad to see you, and Josh, I know, is on the road. Donnie?
Yes, thank you.
Landcare?
I have a few things. One is that we will be hosting an AmeriCorps volunteer at Montreat College this year, and her focus will be primarily outreach to McDowell County students. And so it's kind of unclear exactly what her role will be, but she will be organizing volunteers to serve in an environmental capacity. So I would guess that there might be some overlap here in Montreat as well. She'll be starting in September. Our students every few years, excuse me, offer a conference, an adventure education conference. It rotates from college to college throughout Western North Carolina. And this year we are hosting it. It'll be on November 5th, the first Friday in November. And it's called an Adventure Ed Conference. And the last time it was offered at Brevard, there were over 200 participants. So just so you're aware that that is going to be happening, it'll be hosted at the college. And the final thing is that my students will be leading a trip on the river, on the French Broad River with the Historical Foundation, Asheville Historical Foundation. So if you're interested in going on a canoe trip, look for their information. I think it's posted on their website, but that'll be on September 11th. So those are a few things that we're involved in. Thanks. And I don't know what Josh is doing. He's always got lots going on.
I know I've chatted with him, but I'd like to again publicly thank Dottie with Patty is now gone, but she helped with this brochure for the generations of that was at the nature center for all the track trails and the kids in the park. And the printing of that was done at the college, and we appreciate that, Dottie. Okay. And of course, Jason will get the MRA. Tracy had also been a wonderful help. She was not able. She might be here. Oh, she's there. There you are. Oh dear. Hi, Tracy. I thought I saw your. Thank you again for the name tags and the brochures that we handed out at the cottagers. I picked them up just as you had printed them out, and wonderful. Sorry, Tracy. I wondered who that person was as I kept glancing at her.
Good morning. I'm okay. I hope all of you are. I was looking forward to coming in person to see all of you. And then we had these cases of COVID come up at the conference center last week. And I thought the better part of wisdom to not share space with anybody, just to be on the safe side. I think Jason could probably give a whole lot better report of the summer and Landcare and environmental stuff than I could, but I can tell you that it's been a good summer for the conference center. It's been better than we had hoped it would be in a lot of cases, and the response has been really good. The people have been very encouraging and very cooperative and very helpful and all those things, and yet still we ended up with some cases of COVID. So in spite of everything, it happens. And we're getting ready to start back next week with our Road Scholar programs. We'll have just a few people at a time, but it's pretty much every week from now until November. That's either a Road Scholar or one of our normal fall conferences. And so some of those will be doing in-person and virtual options like we're doing here today. And so that will be, Heather's getting some really good practice with all those things, but that may be something that we are going to try to continue on even after all this COVID mess for those people who might not be able to travel or can't afford to travel to Montreat to make things a little less expensive. We can work that out. So, Grace, I don't know if your microphone is on, but I've had a hard time hearing you during the presentation. Everybody else's microphone I can hear fine. I've just been kind of leaning into.
Oh, that means that. Oh, can you hear me?
I can
now?
hear you now. Yes.
I must have put it off on my voice.
And there's no way that y'all would have known that being in the room because you're, listening to each other and everything really without the microphone. But I just want to let you know that.
Thank you. And we'll give you a sign to hold up the next time. Oh, it does. Wow. I'm hearing myself now. Tracy, again, thank you. And Jason has been continuing to send me information and the trails and the attitudes of all the nature center people and the volunteers that have gone there. The staff of Montreat has been so supportive with Landcare, and I thank you again. And I'm sorry at the end you're just hearing me. All right, and the Earth Ministry, Hal? Do you have anything to report, please, sir?
We haven't set up a movie, but we will be doing something this fall. So as soon as the church gets back together and we can
Excellent.
organize.
Sending me any of that information, we'll get it out through our publicity here too. All right, I think we're down to actually skipping through the cottagers and open space. I'm also going to be working with the open space. Yes. With conservation. Yes, and that is also with Mary Nell Todd. Yeah, and I've been reading her book. She said after she reads the 1,000 pages, she'll get back to me. Have any comment on that?
There are more pages at my house.
Al?
I've got a cottager's question. Leading on from our discussion of kept access, one of the things where we've been really lucky is we've been able to raise money for specific projects pretty well. And I think that sounds like a good project, but you normally need somebody that's a nonprofit you can donate to if you're going to donate much money. And maybe the cottagers would be willing to set up some fund, not set up a fund, but set up a place we could donate funds that could be then passed through to do that sort of work.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that before with several other projects.
Good. And I know the church is also looking at access to churches and to, in there, Christina, working, are you on that committee with her with handicap? Okay. Martha, what was, help me out with that.
No, but we won't be able to fund a lot of money
Oh, okay.
out to
Okay.
something beyond the church, I'm sure, but it'll be, our people, and we'd be glad to publicize
Excellent.
all of that.
Okay. We have other sources of people who have spoken up with Patty in regards to families wanting to contribute toward that. So I'll get back to you with how to work that out, and maybe with my cottagers connections, that will happen too. That's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, our next land care meeting, if there's other business that we need to bring up, it's going to be September 1. And I think we're going to try to get back to the Allen building because it helps Dottie and Josh with their getting on foot to get back to their chapel or other commitments. So we also would like to thank the Montreat Presbyterian Church for that. And Alex, I know it's hard to record there, and we've talked about that, but we'll thank you for all you've done for the Zoom meetings, and we may come back and see you sometime. You want to see us, I'm sure. Okay, if you really read my agenda, what did the tree say to the dog? What? And?
My bark is worse than your bark.
Or you're barking up the wrong tree? Any others? Okay, well then on a happy note, any other comments or additions, please let me know. Brad, you wanted to. Tom. All right, and guess what? It's time for those native invasive plant leaves to leave too. Nancy, thank you for coming, and Brad will work hard on that Labor Day weekend. Nancy's leaving us, but she's going to be in contact because I have her email address. So don't go away. The public will be informed.